and the official thank you for being here at the Sunday Insight in Metta. Allowing the sound of the bell to come to the ears without having a preference if it's pleasant or unpleasant. Just noticing the purity of sound coming to the ears. May you find the comfortable place that you like sitting. Knowing that this is a meditation practice where we begin to let the body still and encourage the mind to gain some calmness. We start on our first few moments of noticing bodily sensations of everything that we really experience in our world comes to us through seeing and hearing and touching and tasting and smelling and the thought door. And so we have this busyness from all of the senses. And quite often, I think probably in our generations, we tend to value the thought door, or the thought door seems to be one of the most prevalent doors. But let's just remember that we have hearing, the sound coming to the ear, purely coming. We very quickly race to a perception of it, that whatever we are hearing, we might like it or not like it. But in the Buddha's teachings of equanimity and of mindfulness, we want to see clearly what's happening right now, hearing clearly, tasting, touching, with the purity of that sensation arriving to that sense door. And so we had seeing as we were looking at each other. If we're sitting with our eyes slightly open, there's a soft gaze of seeing as we soften the gaze with the eyelids partially closed. Sometimes that's a nice way to sit if you're particularly tired at night, just letting light in, but not having judgment about what we're seeing, if it's pleasant or unpleasant. The same with hearing. And as we develop these qualities of mindfulness, sometimes even the most jarring sounds can be heard as sound arriving at the ear. And we also have smelling, tasting, touching. We can use the door of touch as a way to help settle the body and concentrate the mind by letting our attention be on just a single touch point in the body, where the hands might be touching or where the buttocks is touching on the chair, or where the feet are touching on the floor. And we can bring ourselves to the present moment by noticing pressure at that point that we choose. or there might be heat. There might be sensation of tingling or whatever the pressure might feel like. We're wanting ourselves to be present with whatever is arising at the sense doors, and for now we choose the door of touching as a way to anchor our attention. Another anchor that we can return to from time to time, that's with us all the time, just as touching is, but it's a little more central to our core, is the breath. Where do we notice the breath most predominantly? Do we notice the belly rising? Pressure that happens on the inhale, being present with that feeling tone, pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. The pressure that might occur at the top of the breath, and then that space between the inhale and the exhale. And the release at the exhale. And the breath, we can notice, breathes on its own. We can take a breath or two that might be relaxing or rejuvenating, depending on whether we're perhaps restless and anxious. Then we can take a couple of relaxing breaths, slower, deeper ones. Or if we're tired and sleepy, we might take quicker breaths that are more energetic. But we have this body and our breath within it, this container of the rising and the falling of the breath. Conveniently with us. And it gives us a place to return to when we find the mind wandering, perhaps into repeated stories about the past or various stories about the future, what we need to do or what we want to accomplish or where we want to go. In this practice, we want to try to be present in this moment, letting mindfulness and awareness be at the forefront, without judgment when they aren't. We're just here to notice the arising and the passing away of what comes to us without our ability to change it. It arises on its own accord, comes to some of our senses, lasts for a certain amount of time and flows away on its own accord. And with mindfulness, we notice the beginning, the middle, and the end, if we can, of as many moments as possible, which naturally helps the body calm, the mind stay focused for a while on this single object of the breath, the rising and falling. It's a simple practice at first, but it's not easy. And we kindly hold ourselves with ease. The way gravity holds us in our seat, we're present. The way we feel our feet on the floor or wherever we have them, the way we feel our hands in our laps, brings us to the present moment. So that we may hold ourselves in kindness and in compassion, no matter what's going on in the heart and mind. We have this precious gift of being born human in this lifetime, and the ability to hear the teachings of the Buddha on mindfulness, beginning to understand the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path. We can see for ourselves that suffering arises. We get dissatisfied, agitated. We want things to be different than the way they are. And we can notice when that occurs that there's constriction in the mind and in the heart, wanting things to be other than the way they are, grasping or clinging, wanting them to be pleasant. When we have pleasant experiences sitting, the breath might be very pleasant. But we can quickly see that these things are impermanent and they arise and pass. And as we notice thought forms that might come into the heart and mind that are repetitive of something we want to cling to or push away, we can see that that suffering occurs in our hearts. And we might also notice that it happens because of the way that we cling to wanting it to be different, which is the second noble truth on that there is clinging and craving. And the third noble truth is that there is freedom from this. And that freedom is elucidated in the fourth noble truth of the Eightfold Path. And all the different kinds of Buddhism that there is, these four truths are always at the root of each one. And with mindfulness present, being kind and open with ourselves, willing to greet whatever arises, we hold ourselves in equanimity. And attend to whatever is there. As we attend to our breathing, noticing, breathing in and breathing out, we can stay present to what's happening right here and right now. Breathing in, I know that I am breathing in. And breathing out, I know that I am breathing out. Each breath is a new moment. No breath is ever the same. Whether we're noticing it at the belly, whether we're noticing it at the nostrils, each moment something is happening, moment to moment. And as we let ourselves attend to that, we tend to not pay so much attention to some of the hindrances that often arise. That of restlessness, or that of sleepiness, or maybe there's doubt. There can be agitation. There can be grasping and clinging. All of those are guests that come and go. And we can hold them with kindness as they arrive and also notice that they pass. We can return to the breath as our anchor, or the touch point as our anchor. To really allow mindfulness and awareness to be our focus. And if we find the mind wandering, we can always bring it back and just allow a calming scanning of the body to flow through. We can notice what's happening at the top of the head. There may be noticeable tension around the eyes, just allowing a relaxation to flow behind the eyes and through the face. Sometimes just by noticing, what does it feel like here? If there's tensions, they flow on their own, change. We can continue this scanning through the body of just allowing our attention to flow at whatever pace works for us. Through the neck and across the shoulders and so forth, down into finally the feet and the pressure of gravity and the feet against the floor. And so if you do that kind of body scanning, do it on your own time. To just be present, it's another way of being present in this moment. Noticing when things that arise in the mind might be unskillful, repetitive thought forms that are not really helpful. We may also notice that there's tensions in the body. We might have something talking to us loudly somewhere in the body. That brings us into the present moment. With mindfulness and awareness and wisdom to let go of what isn't helpful and to incline the heart and mind toward kindness for ourselves and compassion when things are challenging that arise. And if we find the mind wandering, or we find ourselves spacing out or spacing in, we can take a moment to just notice what is happening in the mind right now. There may be a positive frame of mind. It's important to recognize it. Recognition can tend to strengthen wholesome states of mind. We can let go or notice when it lets go if there's unwholesome or unhelpful states of mind arising. Everything that comes to any of our sense doors arises due to conditions that we do not have control over. But we are here to see this clearly and to notice the impermanent nature and the lack of identity of the I. And we can see this in each and every breath. becoming comfortable in our own skin. This is our home, this place where the breath fills the container of our body. We can notice the beginning and middle and end of it. We can notice the body of the breath and our body filled with breath, arising and passing away. Warm, cool, tingling. Awareness is there to notice what else arises. We can return to the breath as the anchor. We can also notice what happens at the other sense doors. Hearing at the ear door, seeing at the eye door, tasting at the touch door, at the tasting door, touching at the door of touch, smelling. They come purely, without our perception of turning them into something that we can label. It's the pure, simple arising and passing away at each of the sense doors at this moment. Constantly changing, connecting mindful moments one at a time. What is happening in the heart and in the mind right now? Can we hold ourselves with kindness? Can we be at ease with whatever is arising? Can we incline the heart and mind toward compassion for what arises? Whatever moment we wake up in is a moment of freedom, because we're awake. We're awakened to the next moment and the next moment and the next moment. And this can actually bring joy. And so that's one of those things that we can add to a positive frame of mind. We develop the heart's courage and stamina and awareness as we let go of what's harmful to ourselves and to others, as we incline the heart and mind away from ill will and toward kindness. Breath by breath, moment by moment. Holding to values of truth and kindness, trust and harmony with each other. Being appreciative to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha for the teachings, that we may have kindness and compassion, unconditional forgiveness to help nurture peace in our hearts. May we purposefully attend to being kind to ourselves. May I be at ease with things just as they are. And when things are challenging, may I hold myself in compassion. This is the way things are sometimes. But may that kindness lean toward compassion for myself and for others. as we care for each other, for all beings on earth, sowing seeds of true compassion. May we hold others in our hearts. Perhaps a close friend or a loved one, or a teacher or benefactor. Just as I wish to be happy, I know that you also wish to be happy. May you have ease in your life. Letting our awareness be in the generation of this loving kindness, generating our hearts and minds, inclining our hearts to including others. Which becomes a reflection that opens up to ourselves. And if it helps to imagine a being that we look up to, supporting us, may that energy of kindness and compassion that emanates toward us from them, this being that we know cares for us, or maybe it's an exemplary being like the Buddha or Kuan Yin, but it could be our grandmother or a child, that we have this extra blessing of kindness being generated toward us, that we can generate toward others, which all stays within this container of our hearts and minds. We use these phrases or these ideas or these internal pictures as just a way to help keep our hearts open to kindness, compassion, equanimity, and joy, that our own hearts and minds can stay open and pliable and flexible. As we develop this practice for ourselves, it naturally emanates to others. breath by breath, moment by moment, holding ourselves and others in kindness, in compassion. May those that are near and dear to us be included in our hearts. May those whom we don't know be included in our hearts. May those having difficulty be included in our kindness and in our compassion. Those known and unknown, seen and unseen, beings that may be suffering, beings that may be in joy, those that swim and fly, crawl, walk. May all beings everywhere be held in our hearts, be free from harm, have ease and well-being. As Rosemary Trommer says, when everything's falling, when everything's broken, when all is ravel and rubble and ransacked and ruin, and the world is a stuttering, guttering blunder, a plundered and ravaged thing, that is when wonder arrives on the wings of forgiving, and living arrives on the wings of the dead, and devotion arrives in the wreckage of loss. And if to love is to risk being tumbled and fumbled and wrung out and sprawled, to love is also to trust there are hands that will raise us, amaze us with kindness, calm hands that will flip up our hurt, heavy hearts, as if they're as light as red leaves in the fall. May we nurture this calm. May we be appreciative of those hands that help flip up our hurt, heavy hearts. Anicca vata sankhara upadavaya domino upakitava meruchanti te sam vamasmo sukho. All conditioned things are subject to impermanence. They arise and pass away. And seeing this clearly with mindfulness, understanding directly the impermanent nature of things, can really bring us peace. That true happiness, which is peace. Thank you for your practice. As you gently let your eyes open and let light in, see what's around you. as we let this kindness and compassion spread all around us. May we risk that loving is being tumbled and fumbled and wrung out and sprawled. To love is also to trust there are hands that will raise us, amaze us with kindness, calm hands that will flip up our hurt, heavy hearts as if there is light as the red leaves in fall. May we let this kindness that we have for ourselves and others be remembered, be reminding us of moments of joy, realizing that all conditioned things are subject to impermanence. They arise and pass away, and seeing this clearly brings the greatest happiness, which is peace.